In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
This is the nodpod, the No Off Days podcast. Chris Cato here. Are you okay now? You were a little choked up right before we started.
I had a sausage lodged in my... Yeah, I'm good. I've got
It's my 12:30 dick.
I need some tea in my nodpod mug here. Available in the nodpod store.
Good. Well, I feel like Gator fans kind of went into a little bit of a cardiac arrest this week with a lot of news coming out of Gainesville. We're going to dive into that a little bit later in the show. Let me not steal Brian's thunder. But, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see this headline that Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia has now passed an executive order that says that all Georgia State schools can now start paying players directly?
Oh,
Have
really?
you seen this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Aren't we already doing that?
Well, I mean, you don't have to go through any type of fund. There's no collective.
Okay.
It's just,
Yeah.
Here we go. They're passing in the hallway.
Well, yeah, I think that's
Kirby
what...
hands a check.
Look,
I
I think that's what we're all headed to anyway. I don't have a problem. Cut out the middleman. Cut out the bag man again.
Yeah, but it's Georgia. You know what I mean? Like the rich get richer. Quite literally.
Is this because Georgia got jumped to number 2?
Yeah.
They're now number 2 in the polls. So
they feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Get that on my desk on Monday. Absolutely. All right, let's welcome in BK. I don't know. I mean, I just think that it's weird when you have the politician side of things passing rules that work in one state but aren't going to play in the other state. Again, this is where having some type of governing body where everybody's playing by the same rules would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. I don't know. What say you, BK?
I mean, essentially, they're all state employees now, and that does open up a can of worms. And I mean, what was that school, Dartmouth, that unionized the basketball teams? I mean, that's what you're going to head to now. So this may open up that can of worms for other states to follow.
Yeah.
Worms. I don't like worms.
I don't either.
Not cans of them. I like gummy worms. Those are good. Yeah, well, I think this is too. Other states will do this now because we saw this with some of the NIL legislation. I think Florida was one of the first to pass some kind of NIL legislation. They all come on. But I think this is what we're moving to, is taking out these collectives, which I like better. The best part about it is I think it will lead to some transparency. We can see who's getting paid what and what their deal is.
Hopefully. I mean, there's nothing that would preclude them from having some transparency right now, like knowing some of the inner workings of these collectives. I mean, if we're not getting the information now, I don't know why we would get the information then, but whatever. I mean, it's a matter of time. I feel like this is probably like a 10, 15-year project before it finally we're in like the beta version, like this is the very early stage.
No, I think as fast as this movie is moving by 5 years, we're the NFL light or whatever they want to call it.
Well, I know it's moving and it's going somewhere, but I'm saying where it gets to like a resting place and you say, oh, okay, now we're here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like this for 20 more years.
Well, you see what Tennessee's doing now. Next year for season tickets, they're adding a surcharge.
Yes.
For NIL.
What they call that? They call it a talent fee.
Talent fee, exactly.
So my question is,
that's what Chris charges every time he goes.
Every Nod podcast.
Yeah, every charitable event he goes to, he charges.
Every time I speak at a school, I'm like,
just
talent fee waiver.
I mean,
my question with that though is, if that's a 10% talent fee, do Florida State fans get 10% of their money back?
Yeah.
The lack of talent fee.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Was that too harsh? You guys didn't like that one. Should I pull that one back?
Pull it back.
Okay.
Pull it back.
I thought it was good.
Kicking the dog. All right. What do we have on today's program?
Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Florida football program. I've had some stuff going on up there in Gainesville, hadn't they?
Yeah. Well, every 3 years, it's press the dump button, right? Yeah. That's what they do.
It's got a good program. We just got to get some stability there. We're going to talk to Graham Hall. He's with the 24/7 network up there at Gainesville with the Florida football team. We'll get his insights on what's going on exactly up there.
You know what 24/7 sounds like?
What's that?
No off days, really.
It does, actually. Yeah.
I think he might owe us.
He
owes us a talent fee.
Yeah, that's what we were going to name it, 24/7. But then I was like, it exists.
Yeah.
What's another way to say that? Okay, and then we got our picks too, right?
Got the picks, and we're going to have a return guest who.
Oh, beautiful.
So
beautiful.
We'll save that, and it may be O'Donnell, it may be someone else.
I hope it's not O'Donnell. I followed some of his picks. Didn't go well for me.
To the poorhouse. And then at the end of the show, we're going to break out the Nodpod Gazette. How about that?
All right,
it's been a while.
Looking forward to it.
That old unreliable rag.
Thank you, BK.
Thanks,
all right,
guys.
if you're listening and you want to watch, go to fox13news.com/nodpod. If you're watching and you want to listen or subscribe, take your phone, zap the QR code on the screen, and it'll take you to our show page. You can find all of our shows We are on number 99, which means they're about to hit the eject button on us.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we get canceled. We're out with Billy Napier.
What did Jay-Z say? I got 99 podcasts and
yeah, and not a good one.
And not a good one.
Fox13news.com/nodpod. So you brought up FSU, so let's just pick it up right there because earlier this week, Mike Norvell says, you know what? You may clamor all you want for a quarterback change, but that ain't happening. I'm sticking with DJU. He's shown me enough good things. I would ask, what are those good things? Now, look, the whole time that we've been watching FSU since the beginning of the season, DJ has not been the number one problem for me. There's other issues, right? But it's like you got to do something different, right? You have to find a way to reshuffle that deck and to get some better performances going because it has been painful. And so why not Brock Glenn? Why not Luke Cromanhook? One of these guys, they may not be a better talent, but they're younger. They potentially could be there for seasons to come, and we don't know really what they could do. We saw a glimpse of Brock last year as a true freshman.
It wasn't pretty. We saw him in two games, and it wasn't.
As a true freshman, right? But what have we seen that's pretty? So my point is, like, I think it's time to probably move on. And it's not to say, like, hey, here's the scapegoat. Let's kick him to this. That's not the idea. It's just finding a way to generate something. If you get a quarterback that's a little bit more mobile, that moves around the pocket a little bit more, ignites some offense.
Okay, I get that. But don't you think if they had, like, these guys, they've watched these guys through fall camp and all of that and in practice every week. Don't you think if they had
practice?
Don't you think if they had that, they would have moved on to Brock Glenn?
You don't know what you have. They thought they had something in DJU.
No, they knew.
There's a lot of game film.
We said on this podcast, probably episode 60 something back in the summer, maybe 70, that we knew what DJ was. Like he was capped out when he left. By the way, he got replaced at Clemson.
Right, but okay, let's replace DJ's name with any of the other transfers that they thought they had. The point is that sometimes it takes the opportunity. And a game is much different than practice. You can perform all that, but if you don't have real bullets flying, you just never know. I'm not saying that it's going to be an improvement. I'm saying, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
And I feel like this week is probably as good a week as any, even though that's not going to happen, to try to get out there and just see what you have, you know? Give another quarterback an opportunity. I think you have to change something.
May I tell you something?
Yeah.
Last year, DJU played against Cal. That's who Florida State plays this weekend. For Oregon State, he played against Cal. 19 of 25, 275 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. So if he goes out and lays an egg on Saturday, like he has all season so far, what does that say about Norvell's system? Jonathan Smith got this out of him at Oregon State. He's played worse than he played last year.
I mean, but that's one guy, and, you know, all teams, they're just, it's different. My point, again, it's
I just
not
gave you ammo for replacing him there, and now you're right.
Well, right, but no, wait.
Well, maybe I did.
No, you said you were making the case he played against Cal, so he should be able to play well against them again, even though it was a completely different team. Yeah, my point is just I think you're at the point now. We are collectively at the point in both the NFL and college football where it's time to start changing quarterbacks. We saw it at Carolina. Bryce Young, he's gone. On to Andy Dalton. It's just, I mean. And sometimes it's not always just the indictment of the player, but it's just when they play a position that is as, you know, important as the quarterback position, people feed off of that. Your energy from your offense feeds off of your quarterback. What he's able to do in ad-libbing moments, you know, when scrambling, all that kind of stuff, it's just different. I'd say it's worth rolling the dice and seeing because I don't know how much worse it could honestly get with this team. So, yeah. I mean, it can. I trust me.
It could get worse. Ask Billy Napier.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, I think we need to head up to Gainesville and talk a little Gator football. Well, we welcome in a new guest to the program who's probably been a little bit busy this week as there has been some circulating word up there in Gainesville that one head coach might be on the hottest of hot seats. For more, let's welcome in a gentleman that covers the Florida Gators for 24/7 Sports, Graham Hall, joining the Nod Pod. Graham, thanks for being a part of the program tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's never a dull moment here in Gainesville.
Yeah,
well, talking over with you guys.
Let's dive into that because, you know, we hear all these rumors that come out over the weekend that the boosters have raised enough money to pay pay for the buyout of Napier. He hits the podium on Monday, says he hasn't had any discussions with any of the staff there. So where do things currently stand? And I should say, as we tape this, and we're taping this interview on Tuesday night.
Well, I think that it's pretty clear that, if they're going to part ways with you, you're often the last one to find out. So I'm not surprised that Billy Napier came out and said there have been no discussions regarding him parting ways with Florida. I mean, I don't think he would really know right now, but you mentioned how hot that seat was. I mean, it was pretty hot before the season even started. And you look at how Florida has fared through the first 3 weeks, obviously a pretty easy win over Samford, but otherwise they were outscored 74-37 against the two FBS opponents they faced. That's Miami in the season opener and Texas A&M this past week, both home losses where Billy Napier was booed throughout those games, including as he walked off the field. And speculation has ran rampant in the time since that they could be looking for another head coach, the fourth in the past decade here, which is as long as I've covered the team. So we're used to it. But it seems that Florida is going to stick with Napier for a little bit longer. How long that will be, I think, is anyone's guess here. They do have a bye week coming up after the Mississippi State game, so that's always an ideal time if you are going to part ways and move to an interim coach, to give that interim coach that 11 days in between competitions there to really have a chance to not just acclimate to their newfound responsibilities, but also to regain, I think, some confidence internally rather than having to turn right around. So that makes sense to me. But you talk about the buyout money being raised. That is such an interesting thing because Florida wants to do a massive stadium renovation in the next 5 years to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. They're still paying Dan Mullen $1 million a year for the next 4 years. And then if you part ways with Billy Napier, you owe him $13-ish million within the first 30 days. So you have to make sure you have at least that, and then you can handle the rest of the $13 million buyout money over the next couple of years. So Florida certainly needs to make sure that that is all squared away. And on top of that, you're going to be paying a new head coach probably $10 million a year. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to lure someone away from another top program, which seems to be what fans would like to see rather than have to go with an unproven name. You're going to have to shell out probably upwards of $70 million, and a coach is going to need that fully guaranteed. So there certainly is a fundraising aspect when it comes to making a coaching change. It's not something you want to do lightly, but it is looking like Florida, as this thing goes on and they prove to be not as competitive as they anticipated being, to put it mildly, that they're going to have to do just that. But first they have to make sure that the funds are in place, and that's priority number one, that from what we've heard has been taken care of.
Well, also, I'm curious, how does the dynamic, Graham, of not having a university president hired yet factor into this? You have an interim president. The usual logic is that the new president wants to hire his or her own AD. Scott Strickland, by all accounts, has been a good AD except for in hiring football coaches. He doesn't have a good track record. So does that draw out this timeline some? Because in the world of academics, the search for a university president usually isn't swift as the search for a new college football coach.
Yeah, it's a great question because that's kind of a fascinating wrinkle here to the entire situation. You're looking for another president. Who knows what happens with the athletic director as well? Will they even have a chance, if they are potentially on the hot seat as well, to even make that hire? The boosters are the ones raising the money, right? So I would think that the input that they have, along with using a search firm, would be how the process is handled. There's a lot of people in Gainesville as well that have been here longer than Scott Strickland, Chip Howard, Mike Spiegler, Steve McLean, and the one and only Jeremy Foley still has that emeritus AD role here in Gainesville. So you certainly have some people who maybe have a larger say in the room than Scott Strickland even does, and they could certainly have an involvement as well. I don't know how Florida fans are going to feel about that, but the fascinating thing is that they're going to have to hire a new president, select a new one in the next couple of months. If they do that, then I think that absolutely you're talking about a situation that what happens from an AD perspective. The thing that's interesting here is Kent Fox, the interim president, has a good relationship with Scott Strickland. So maybe that buys Strickland a little bit more time. But either way, you don't often get three chances to make that that coaching hire as an AD. So we'll have to see what happens on that front as well.
We know how much of this comes down to, obviously, for all these teams, winning the recruiting battle. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the benefits, the pros and cons. Obviously, it seems like if you were to have a termination this early in the season, you're losing many months of potential recruiting, whereas, maybe you keep him in the seat, even if he's a kind of a dead man coaching, so to speak. That at least maybe you're able to hold on to some of your recruits. Flush that out a little bit for me, and what you think the pros and cons are.
Yeah, I think that you part ways with a coach in the middle of a season. There's that whole thing where players can pretty much as soon as the season ends enter the transfer portal within 30 days. And there's also the players on the roster. NIL is such a massive factor here, and I think as most people realize now, NIL is used largely for retention, right? So retaining those top players on your roster, DJ Lagway, LJ McCray, Shamar James, Eugene Wilson, a Tampa native right there as well that I think fans are very familiar with, making sure that you don't lose them to other SEC, ACC, Big Ten programs is certainly something that goes into the coaching hire, right? You want to have a coach who's going to come in and be appealing enough that those players are going to want to stick around for the new regime rather than have this buy-in process where they have yet to see the results of a guy coming from the group of 5 level and how they're going to do in the SEC. Otherwise, you're kind of even farther along in restarting that rebuild. So that is absolutely massive for Florida. On the recruiting front in itself, Florida's class is already looking pretty small right now. And to expedite that rebuilding process, everyone knows the transfer portal is what is just absolutely massive. Say you hire a guy like Lane Kiffin or, Alex Galesh or Brett Key, one of these top names that are out there that have been floated. I think they have a little more leeway to get players to stick around than going for someone who you're looking to bring in who is going to exceed expectations, who maybe hasn't done it in the SEC level. That's one of the benefits of spending a little bit more money in hiring a proven name, because then you're going to spend a little less money in retaining players, and it's going to give you a better chance to rebuild your team into the championship contender that Florida fans are so desperate to get back to being.
All right, let's take a quick break with Graham on the other side. Kind of want to look ahead as to some of those names that are popping up on, potential replacement short list. Yeah, we'll get into all that coming up.
You think the Gator fans regret running Dan Mullen off?
No, I don't, because I do think that if you look at Dan Mullen right now, I don't think he would really cut it in this day and age with the transfer portal and NIL especially. I mean, recruiting was, I think, his big issue. I mean, if you could get that guy for what he was being paid, because you're going to pay him anyway, to accept an offensive coordinator role and be a play caller, I think Florida fans would take that in a heartbeat. He wouldn't have taken that having worked his way up there. He's obviously still being paid, like I said, to be unemployed, and he's doing TV work. But this day and age is very cutthroat. It's harder on coaches with the 2 transfer portal windows. I mean, when Dan Mullen was here, you didn't even have an early signing day initially. So much has changed. So much more is on coaches right now than it was even, 5-6 years ago. I just think that Dan Mullen doesn't really want to be a part of that. Or if he does, I think he's taking some well-deserved time after being in the business for 2 decades to recharge his batteries, maybe find an ideal landing spot where he doesn't have to really work on building a program up from the ground up. Maybe a top coach retires and they call on him to really just pick up where they left off rather than starting a rebuilding process. I think that Florida fans who pay attention to recruiting certainly realize that Dan Mullen had kind of ran out his time in Gainesville, and it was a difficult thing for Scott Strickland to do, knowing that Scott Strickland had worked with him in Starkville at Mississippi State to fire one of his, buddies, you could say here. But it's clear that whatever coach Florida hires, if the NIL is not in place, if the recruiting efforts aren't a 365-day thing, it's not going to be an improved program, at least not overnight. It's going to be more of a gradual process. So there's a lot of things that are outside of a coach's, I think, purview, even, you could say here. It's never really been less in a coach's hands when it comes to recruiting and transfer portal. And a lot of coaches out there who always thought that they had the power and the ability to really control all aspects, just kind of being helpless when it comes to player acquisition, has really, I think, pushed a lot of them away from wanting to be in the game right now. And I can't really blame them necessarily.
So the fact that the news came out over the weekend and, here we are on Tuesday and nothing has happened, I guess this may seem like a silly question, but Graham, is there anything that can be done for Napier to retain his job?
I mean, if they go on a run of some sorts, you look at how Florida has fared so far. I mean, if they can establish the ground game, if they can find an ideal quarterback rotation, if they can find a pass rush, if they can stop having horrible penalties, 16 penalties through 3 games right now. They're in the bottom half of penalized teams. If they can do all those things, and again, we haven't seen enough that makes you believe they're going to be able to implement those improvements. If they can do those things and go on a run here, and maybe he wins 7 games, which kind of doesn't really seem feasible right now. But if they can do that, I do think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to vouch for him to get another chance when you consider that this is the most difficult schedule in college football, certainly in modern college football history. I think you could say, you look at the amount of teams that Florida is going to face down the stretch who are ranked in the top 5 here. So if they can find a way to get a winning record after this start, there's going to be people who are going to be a little bit torn about parting ways with Billy Napier. But I think the most discouraging thing for a return is that going to a 7-5 finish? Is that going to bring back all the fans who aren't just totally out on Florida and Billy Napier, but they're apathetic to the fan base right now? Is that going to be enough? I don't know. Then he goes into the year in 2025 on the hot seat, and people are still calling for him to not be the coach anymore. I don't know if that's going to be enough. This may be a point of no return, in the sense that even if, Florida wins 7-8 games, again, I don't really see it happening just based on the amount of opponents who are top caliber that they have to face down the stretch. This may be a situation where we're already at a point of prolonging the inevitable here. And that's why I think a lot of people are wondering, why has it not happened already?
Well, to me, his lifeline is DJ Lagway, and that's one thing I don't understand about the strategy we saw against Texas A&M. This is the guy, the 5-star, that could help you show promise to your fan base and your supporters. He's got the biggest upside, and we see this alternating series with the quarterback system with Texas A&M, and to me, that gives your guy no time to build any kind of rhythm, either one of them, Mertz or Lagway. Do you think we see him go away from that as they go into Starkville, a very beatable Mississippi State team on Saturday?
I think that they're going to be a little bit more inclined to do just that. It's a great point. I do think that what you saw, how stringent and strict the split was last week against Texas A&M, like you said, really didn't work in Florida's favor here, because even when a guy got hot, he was going back to the sideline to watch for 10, 15 minutes. That's not ideal. Florida is going to play both quarterbacks early against the Bulldogs, and I think that they're going to go with the hotter hand based on what the defense is showing them, whether it's Graham Mertz or it's DJ Lagway. I think that either one of those guys is going to have a chance to play back-to-back consecutive series for Florida, which is something that I think a lot of Florida fans would like to see, because what they did last week against Texas A&M clearly was not working at a high rate, especially against that Aggies front seven, who seemed to be able to generate pressure regardless of who was back there under center. So I do think that you'll see Florida go to a rotation initially, but I do think that you're going to see one quarterback get multiple series here. And I think that the toughest thing is just handling that balance, because it's on the fly. A lot of it is trusting your gut, the evaluation and feedback process from your coaches in the box, what they're seeing. And I don't know if Florida has really given fans hope that they're going to be able to navigate that correctly, because frankly, the quarterback situation that we've seen from Florida doesn't really inspire hope that they're going to be able to do just that.
All right, Graham, last one for you. We are obviously up here in Tampa quite familiar with Alex Golesh, and think very highly of him and what he's done in very short window with the Bulls. But it seems to me, this is just my hunch, that all roads kind of lead to Lane on this. I mean, Lane Kiffin seems like the best situation. He seems like he would fit that program. He gets the game. He can turn an exciting offense. He will put butts in the seats. Is he your odds-on favorite if you had to pick right now?
I think he's the one that makes the most sense. I think that if Florida had its choice, I would say he's the odds-on favorite. It really comes down to whether he really wants the job or not, in my mind, and whether Florida, knowing that they in the past have kicked the tires on him and maybe were even a little bit hesitant to task him with the responsibilities of leading the Florida program. Again, that was at a time when Lane was still a little bit more unproven, seen as a little bit more of a risk. I think he's kind of nullified those concerns right now. But you look at the current jobs for both of those programs right now, there's an argument that could be made that Ole Miss is a better job right now. Yeah, Florida has the tradition and is obviously going to always have high expectations, and you have a talent-rich state here, more talent than the state of Mississippi, of course. But NIL is such a massive factor, and I do think that the Grove Collective up there in Oxford may be in a better position right now to add talent to Lane Kiffin's roster than Florida Victorious is. That just may be what it comes down to. And if you're Kiffin, you probably have been watching the amount of coaches who have come in here and have not been able to succeed. Is this going to hinder the legacy that he's built, knowing that he at some point could get a job of equal caliber? Maybe Ohio State comes calling, or Dabo Swinney is no longer at Clemson and he has a chance to lead one of those programs. Who knows what can happen? Is he willing to take the reputation hit if the factors that I mentioned outside of his control that are so heavily involved in player acquisition and retention, if he senses that they are not really ideal for him, is he going to want that job? Also, he's making nearly $10 million right now. The interest that is coming out of his side could be used for him to get one of these massive extensions where he makes, $12 million plus a year. Is Florida, when they're still paying multiple coaches, is going to pay 2 buyouts on top of adding a coach like Kiffin? Are they able to afford that right now? I think it's absolutely a question. I think that if Florida had their choice, he'd be the odds-on favorite. I just don't know how willing he would be to accept that job, knowing that he's going to have to lead a rebuild when he right now has a top 5 team up there in Oxford, with certainly, I think, a little bit more of a favorable schedule even next year than Florida has right now.
And less pressure, I would say.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is the game within the game, gentlemen. Well, if you want to catch all of his stuff, covering everything Florida Gators, check him out, 24/7 Sports. He is Graham Hall. Graham, thanks for being a part of our podcast.
Always my pleasure. Thanks, guys. We got to do it again sometime
He's
soon.
off to chase down a trustee meeting now.
No doubt. All right, good stuff. Coming up on the other side, it's time for picks. Do you feel good?
I got winners.
All right,
I got winners for you.
How's your shooting percentage right now?
We're about 50%.
All right. That's about
to be
right.
honest.
Nodpod's back after this. Welcome back to the No Off Days podcast. It's about that time. Chris, you ready to make some picks?
Let's do it.
All right, let's welcome in back by popular demand, former Bucs quarterback Shaun King with us, and I understand he has a side business now. It's called Daddy's Car Service. Is this true, Shaun?
It is. I'm finding every little corner I can cut to get there first and not have to wait in that long line.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's get to some of these games. We got some good ones here this week. We'll kick things up with a Big Ten showdown. How about this? Number 11 USC paying a visit to the Big House, taking on 18th ranked Michigan. USC 5.5-point favorites. 3:30 kickoff. How's this one go down there, Shaun?
Hey, Michigan is making a change at quarterback. Alex Orji now stepping in, but it won't matter. Miller Moss and the Trojans. All you're gonna hear is dun, 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 dun. Trojans win and cover.
And cover. All right. Could I get this one at 6? If I get 5.5. All right.
5.5.
All right, look, switching to Alex Orji, you mentioned it. The Wolverines, I think, are going to lean more on their ground game. The guy's only throwing 7 passes in his Wolverines career, but leaning on that ground game with Donovan Edwards, I expect him to try to control the clock, keep that Trojans offense and Miller Moss off the field. I think the Trojans defense is a little more suspect than we believe. We put a lot of faith in their win over LSU. Then we saw LSU just get run all over the field by South Carolina. I'm going to take that stout Michigan defensive line here, led by Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Will Johnson, one of the best corners. I'm going to take the Wolverines to cover at home.
Okay, all right. Well, I thought I was going to be on an island here with this selection. Obviously Michigan, I think they're in a must-win kind of situation right now in the season. I know it's still early, but I think the switch at quarterback will play big. Speaking of big, Orji's a bigger quarterback. He's going to be a little bit more mobile. The run game is pretty good. The problem before, obviously, Davis Warren threw 6 picks in 3 games. If you don't turn the ball over, the margins are looking a little different in some of these contests. USC has been impressive. I think their defense has been impressive. Miller Moss has been fantastic. I kind of have a weird feeling about this game. I think that the Big Blue might have a resurgence in this one, so I'm going to take the home dog as well.
What's Michigan's fight song?
Hail to the victor.
That's it. All right.
All right. How about Big 12? We got 12th ranked Utah paying a visit to Stillwater, taking on Okie State. Those Cowboys, 14th ranked. Utah just 2-point favorite. Shaun, 4 o'clock kick right here on Fox.
Utah is so good, and Cameron Rising is so unlucky. I was all ready to not just back Utah to win the Big 12, but to potentially win the entire thing. I thought they were that good, but Cameron Rising is hurt. He cut his hand or something happened. So Isaac Wilson is filling in. I don't like him on the road in Stillwater. You've seen those environments, how they get raucous. That wall is right next to the sideline. If you haven't seen Cowboy running back Ollie Gordon, he is the real deal. Surprisingly, Alan Bowen, the quarterback, playing pretty good too, throwing touchdowns with 8, not throwing interceptions, only 2. A home dog, that environment, Utah with a different starting quarterback because of injury. I feel like the Cowboys find a way to win this one outright.
Okay, my sources have Cam Rising playing here and coming back.
One of his receivers, I believe, came out and fessed up that he's going to be good to go this weekend.
We're not getting Christian McCaffrey, are we?
I don't know. You never know with Cam Rising. That's the truth there. But we did see the line move from Utah being a dog to favorite after that news came out. This is the only metric I'm looking at. Mike Gundy, 11-4-1 against the spread versus ranked opponents, and 5-0 against the spread as a home underdog. Give me those Cowboys with the outright win.
You brought up Ollie Gordon. I'm putting an APB out for Ollie. I don't know. He's been missing. He's got 90 yards in these last 2 games combined, and I think they need better. And this is, they couldn't run the ball in that last game that they played, and I think Utah's defense is actually much better. I'm going to stick with my preseason Big 12 favorites to go ahead and get the win on the road. I'm going Utes. All right, a little closer to home, we've got 8th-ranked Miami. Can anybody slow these Canes down? They're paying a visit to Raymond James Stadium to take on USF. This is going to be under the lights at Ray J, 7 o'clock kick. And Miami, 16.5-point favorites, Sean.
USF pulls a weed. We hold our standards up, right? Look at here. I watched Ken Ward very closely at Washington State. The one thing I did notice, for every 2 or 3 great games that he played, he came with a dud, a turnover-filled performance, derailed Washington State in some way, and generally fell back on him. I'm saying that happens this week. USF is brimming with confidence. I mean, they played Alabama toe-to-toe for 3 quarters. They feel like they can win this game. I think they actually are going to win outright. I'm going to take the points, 16.5 with USF. Alex Goalies is doing a great job. And I like Byron Brown to have a big game, not throwing the ball, but running the ball. The young quarterback's averaging 85 yards a game rushing. I think he finds success. I think this is a late 4th quarter game. USF finds a way to finally get across the hump and win one of these big competitive games against a Power 4 opponent that they're in late.
Wow.
He said give him the outright win.
He's got an outright win.
Baby.
Wow, that would be
Can you imagine Ray J will be rocking?
Yeah.
Those
goalposts won't be there for Sunday's Bucs game.
Thrown into Tampa Bay? Wow. All right. This will be Miami's toughest test to date, and yes, I'm aware they played Florida week 1. The Bulls are a different animal. They've got this up-tempo scheme relying on Byron Brown's legs, Naquan Wright, Kelly Joyner looking good at running back, and defensive coordinator Todd Orlando is going to have some exotic blitz schemes ready to try to bottle up Cam Ward. I think, though, the mismatch is on the other side of the ball, really, with this Canes defense that is giving up in 3 games, 261 yards, 190 yards, and 115 yards. I think the Canes are going to overpower the Bulls there, and I love the Bulls. I saw them play my Crimson Tide really tough, but Bama was banged up on the offensive line then. I think this will be the best offensive line the Bulls defense has played against, so I'm going to take the Canes to cover that big number.
I was starting to lean Sean's way earlier in the week when I saw that the Canes were down like 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen, but I believe that most of those guys will be back. I think both tackles will be back in this game. And, I mean, they're just too big up front, and they keep Cam Ward as cool as the other side of the pillow. I don't know that anything gets to him, anything flusters him, and I'm not sure that any exotic blitz scheme is going to knock him off his spot come Saturday night. And as much as I would love to see a Bulls victory, and that would be good for the area, great for the USF fan base, my head says the Canes over the Bulls, and I think they beat them by more than 16.5. So yeah. I'm gonna go Miami. All right, little SEC late night action on Saturday night. 6th-ranked Tennessee, 7-point favorites, heading into Norman, Oklahoma, taking on Jack Arnold and those Oklahoma Sooners. 7:30 kick. Sean, how's this one go down?
AI is taking over America, and NI is about to take over college football. Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava.
You got it.
Yes.
I struggle with that name.
I don't know if you've been watching Tennessee, but he looks really
yeah.
darn good. They got speed all over the field. He's like the perfect mesh between Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton. Has Milton's arm talent, better athlete than Hooker, but Hooker's composure. And I think this Tennessee team is dangerous. In an SEC where nobody's really ran away from it. I know Georgia, Alabama undefeated. Ole Miss is smoking nobodies. I think Tennessee's live. I like Tennessee to go into Oklahoma and beat an Oklahoma team. Really, guys, they're not that good. Tulane, we had them on the ropes. I was yelling at the TV like I was Denny Green. We are who they thought we were. I mean, we had them 24-19. We got the ball, and all hell broke loose as we went for it on 4th and 1. This is not the explosive Oklahoma team we're used to. I think Tennessee woodsheds the Sooners in Norman.
I'm surprised that this number is just 7. I thought it'd be higher, which kind of smells fishy to me, but
fishy.
It smells fishy. But look, this is the story here, the bad blood. Josh Heupel coming back to Norman, wanting nothing more than to lay a splattering on his alma mater, which Stoops fired him, made him the scapegoat for Stoops' own brother's mistakes there when Heupel had a good offense going. You're right about Nico, but the real advantage here for Tennessee is that this Tennessee defense is scary. They are scary good. They're going to make it a long day for Jackson Arnold. I got the Vols rolling.
It's good. It's a good problem to have when you're not sure which is better, your offense or your defense, because both have been fantastic. To Sean's point, look, the Green Wave, they were close in the 4th. Then you have the Houston game where Oklahoma couldn't score in the second half. I think this offense has big problems, and I think that's going to be exposed come Saturday night. Yeah, I think that Heupel goes in there. The beloved son of Norman, he did some great things in that Sooner uniform, but he's going to rip their heart out on Saturday night. I'm glad I finally agree with Sean on a pick. I say Tennessee wins big time against Oklahoma. All right, let's hit the NFL. Sunday afternoon, Broncos visit the Bucs. Bucs undefeated, looking to go to 3-0 on the season. Could it be? 1 o'clock kick. What do you say? 6.5-point favorites, those Buccaneers, Sean.
I don't like laying almost a touchdown, especially against a team that has a great defense like Denver. But listen, I believe everybody should play in the preseason because I think it gets you ready for the regular season. I also believe you shouldn't take anything away from the actual results in the preseason. I say that to say this. I yell from every mountaintop in Colorado that Sean Payton was scheming success for Bo Nix in the preseason. Don't buy it. Sell that stock now. It's going to crash. It's going to tank. Guess what? Bo Nix, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions through 2 games. The way the Bucs defense is creating turnovers, getting after the quarterback, I'm going to lay the points with the Bucs. Not smart to do it often in the NFL. Think about last week. Since he covered a big number, Raiders won outright, so on and so forth. Minnesota won outright. But I'm going to lay the points and see if I can trust the Bucs not to let down after a big emotional win against a team that knocked them out of the playoffs the previous year.
This is one of my favorite picks of the week here, and looking at the whole board, I just which probably means it's not going to turn out this way, but this Bucs defense, I mean, you plug in new guys because of the injuries, and they look just as fast, just as ferocious. And like you said, you've got a rookie quarterback. Bo Picks has thrown 4 interceptions, no touchdowns yet.
That.
This will not be the weekend, I think, that he gets it going. This is not a good Sean Payton offense right here. They are 3rd to last in the league right now in scoring. They've got 26 points a game. Bucs defense holding opponents to 20 a game, and so I think the Bucs win this one comfortably. I'm going 27-13 for a final score.
Oh, you go
like
specific.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think Sean Payton's doing his quarterback any favors. You got a rookie quarterback here that's 3rd in the league in pass attempts right now. They have no run game. Bo Nix is their run game, and that is to say he's rushed for 60 yards through 2 games. So they're a very one-dimensional offense. Their defense might be a little spicy, but I think the Bucs improved to 3-0 for the first time in nearly 20 years as they easily cover that touchdown spread come Sunday afternoon. Do you like the picks? They're in. We locked and loaded them. Sean, I appreciate your time, as always, giving us some great insights into some fun matchups coming up this weekend. He is Shaun King. Thank you so much, sir.
Avoid that drop-off line for as long as you can.
Hey, learn those fight songs, baby. Nothing like college football Saturday.
He brought those fight songs today for sure. All right,
great.
Thank you, Sean. All right, coming up on the other side, we're going to hit the headlines. What are the new headlines that the Nodpod Gazette has conjured up this time?
There's no telling.
Some are real, some are fake. We'll try to get our sniffers out and decipher the two. Coming up next on the Nodpod.
Yes, I smell a lie.
Welcome back to the No Off Days podcast. It's time for our fourth block, our fun block. Let's bring BK. He is the maestro of fun. When you look at him, you just have more fun. We're going to have more fun.
I'm already having more fun just seeing him, his handsome face
smiling.
appear in that.
Man.
He's so happy.
Come on.
He's ready to start lying through his teeth. That's what he's ready to do. He's been working on these
I think
headlines.
the last time I didn't come up with any fake ones, so maybe I didn't do
wait, is this
that.
a tell?
Wait, so these are all fake then? Okay.
Well, maybe not. We'll see. You notice the Nodpod Gazette. I
Yes.
give you a headline. You tell me if it's a real headline or if it's a fake headline.
Yes.
These all seem kind of strange regardless.
They always do.
They always
You ready for the first one?
I'm ready, baby.
You know, this week was National Cheeseburger. We celebrate that National Cheeseburger Day
was it?
during this week. Yeah.
I had a cheeseburger the other day with you in Detroit.
Well, that we did.
Remember that?
That was a very good.
Good.
Did you guys have one for breakfast?
Well,
Yummy.
it's the breakfast of champions, according to a study in Norway. It's determined that eating a cheeseburger for breakfast is actually healthier than eating 2 eggs. People who did eat a cheeseburger for breakfast during the study lowered their cholesterol and fat. Is that a true or a fake headline?
There wasn't there a like a Netflix on this? Super Size Me.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that guy recently died.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's your answer. I'm gonna say fake headline. Was this out of Norway?
Yeah, man. Norway does all these cool studies.
They really do
It's
have.
not even it's not possible. There's no way that eating a cheeseburger is better for you than eating. You said 2 eggs.
2 eggs.
I thought eggs lowered cholesterol. Maybe I've been doing it wrong.
Yeah,
Wait,
eggs are fantastic for you. Straight protein. I'm going eggs.
Well, don't listen to the guy that has chickens in his backyard. He's always pro egg. Yeah, I agree with Scott, though. There's no way, unless these are some kind of super, what kind of eggs are these? Like a cheeseburger omelet? Is that what you're telling me?
Here's the deal. This is either a fake BK headline or it is fake news. Okay.
Or it is a fake BK headline, as in Burger King generated this headline. Have it your way. I'm going to say it's also fake.
You rule.
I'm rolling with Scott on this one.
It is absolutely false, but cheeseburgers have more protein than eggs do.
Do they?
Okay.
Yes, but it's when you start talking about those saturated fats.
Remember
and
we
all that
started the
stuff.
program with a big Polish sausage lodged in
Yeah,
Chris's,
that's right, man.
It's still there.
coronary.
Having a head attack. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Police find a nuclear snake. Holy cow. An Oklahoma man was arrested when, during a traffic stop, police discovered a rattlesnake and a bag of uranium in the back seat. The man joked, saying he wanted to make a super snake. Is this true or false?
This was in where? Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
Where does a guy in Oklahoma come away with a bag of uranium? Can uranium go in a bag? Is that how it's? Is that the preferred
I'm
mode?
not
of
sure. The periodic chart, yes. Uranium is in a bag right next to the plutonium.
Paper or plastic, sir, for that uranium. I brought my own, thank you. And it's got a snake in it. Don't worry about that. I don't know. I think there's some. I used to live in Oklahoma. Spent a little time out there. There's some crazy folks, and there's some crazy snakes too.
Are there?
So yeah, there is. I'm gonna say that's a real headline. I think Super Snake is on its way.
Okay, well, I can't wait to see what Super Snake can do. Can it fly? Does it have X-ray vision? Is it just really good at math? If this had happened in Florida, I would say yes, absolutely true. But no, I'm going to say false. It wasn't uranium. It was some other element.
Like talcum powder?
Yes.
Tungsten. It was
Yes.
a snake in a bag of tungsten.
Tough acting, tenactin.
It is absolutely true.
Thank you.
The man, he scraps metal for a living, and he said he came across this uranium rod that he does sometimes.
Just pick it up.
Hey, what's
enough,
this?
You're allowed legally to keep a certain amount of powdered, which was what he had, was powdered uranium on you. I think in this article it said Amazon sells it. I don't know why you would use it for.
Yeah, what do you use it for?
Yeah, and then as far as the rattlesnake, it happened to be during rattlesnake season there in Oklahoma, as
course.
Scott knows. And so he wasn't charged for that. He wasn't charged for that. He was charged for the DUI for driving
Well, you
drunk.
wouldn't get charged for having a rattlesnake on you, right?
Well, he did. I mean, can you imagine the police reaching in there? There's a terranium back there with a snake in it, with a uranium rod right next to it.
Yeah, that's
Depleted uranium is used in industrial settings like counterweights for aircraft control surfaces or in the keels of yachts. Maybe this guy had a yacht.
Yeah.
He had a snake.
He had
Mugshot,
it was
it's
a
not a
snake.
yacht.
He had a snake plane, like
A snake yacht.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
snake
he's
yacht.
going to take all of his guests. We're going to climb aboard the SS.
Let's go for a sail.
Yeah, in Oklahoma.
Slither across the ocean.
See a lot of yachts in Oklahoma.
Come onto my uranium snake plane. All right. Cool.
How about this one? Pet not so supportive. At a recent, Cato, you may have heard of this, recent Mississippi State game, a Bulldog fan attended a meet and greet prior to the game, and her support dog got uncharacteristically agitated and took a bite out of Bully, the costume mascot, you know? Mm-hmm. The bite was so severe it went through the costume and actually broke skin.
Oh.
The dog could never be calmed down, so the dog asked the lady to leave. She could not go to the game.
Which dog? Which dog asked the lady?
Not the Bully, the mascot, the support dog.
The support dog asked her own lady to leave?
The school asked the lady to take
Support dog was
her
enjoying the
support
game.
dog.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can you just get out of here? I'm going to
You
bite
are
this
actually
mascot.
the support person, and
Yeah.
so the dog's going to stay, and I'll let you handle this one first.
Yeah, it's really specific. I could totally see that happening. I remember Uga biting an Auburn player, which was hilarious, like 30 years ago.
Carlston Bailey or
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Deep dive. I'm going to say false. I'm going to say that it wasn't Bully. This was I don't see dog-on-dog violence here. I would think this would be a tiger mascot that it did.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's an emotional support animal, right? Is that what it is?
Is
Emotional
a support animal, yeah.
Just some type of support? Okay. I mean, usually those animals are like extremely well behaved.
Pretty docile. Yeah.
think so.
And although in a venue like this, maybe things are happening and a little bit more alarming. You have a giant dog approaching you, and you're not sure what to make of it. I'm going to say that this actually happened. That the dog took it was dog on dog crime.
Oh no.
Wow, it's absolutely false. Dang it. Good job, Cato.
I said,
talked myself
I
out.
said a
You
dog
did.
won't do that to a dog. We never see a dog bite a dog, do we?
But
Never.
But that Auburn, that wasn't that a great, the Bulldog biting?
Oh, that was. Remember when Uga got in a fight with Bevo too? in that
I think
bowl game?
Bevo,
Yeah.
took that fight.
That's
That was at the Sugar Bowl, I think.
don't mess with the horns.
No.
right?
No. Okay, the last one here. Neighbor's power trip. A California man thought his apartment power bill was higher than normal. So after an investigation, the power company discovered that he had been paying for his neighbor's power and not just his.
Oh no.
And not just for his pay period, he's been paying for his neighbor's power for nearly 2 decades. True or false?
Oh my goodness.
Oh wow.
What? And what? But so the neighbor is the neighbor the same neighbor that he's had this whole time and has
Well, would
never
you move?
received a power bill?
Would you move if some guy's paying your power bill?
Oh my!
Yeah,
Are you kidding me? Like that would I would go next door and I would manhandle my neighbor. Are you kidding? You've been leeching off me.
Here, I'll play the role of the neighbor. I was
Yes,
like,
all right, let me go.
okay. I didn't know.
You son of a gun!
I didn't know that I was paying. I didn't know you were paying my power bill. I thought I got electricity for
Oh
free.
really?
Yeah.
And you just thought that it was
Well,
just
I don't
your
know.
lights just stayed on.
Look, the energy company, a bill never
Never
showed up.
curious.
What am I supposed to do? Call the energy company, say, "Can you please
For
send
a
me a bill?
decade
I'm
you
not
played
getting
this
one."
role.
No, I thought
Yeah.
the electricity was free.
I invited you over to dinner. How many times?
Well, I've got to say, your chandelier, magnificent, and I love it when you put up all the holiday lights and run my holiday
Who
lights
pays
too.
you? Who? How do you recoup that money? Does the power company have to do that? They better. I mean, they ought to. I'd get it from this guy right here.
You can't gouge the neighbor. He didn't know.
No, he knew.
He didn't know.
Absolutely knew.
He didn't know.
What's this power bill you keep talking about? Is that a thing? People get those? I just thought power was free.
My juice is free here.
Yeah, I bought 3 Teslas. I mean, I just thought, hey, I'm gonna say I just can't conceive of it going on that long.
For 2
I could see,
decades.
yeah. I'm gonna say, and plus nobody has lived in California for 2 decades, at least currently. They're all out here. I'm gonna say it's false.
He found the one hiccup in your story there that this person would have. I'm not moving, though, if someone's paying my bill. I'll say it's true. I'll say that there was some kind of neighbor that was getting a free ride on his electricity for 2 decades.
It is absolutely true.
Oh my goodness.
The man lived alone in his apartment, And he just never thought anything about his bill, but then he just noticed this past month, man, he was way high. He got it looked into. The power company says it's going to work with the customer to come out with a settlement, but still.
Yeah, you can't make the neighbor pay that was getting it for free.
Exactly.
Think about that, because I mean, your power bill in you think power is high here in Florida. I mean, in California, it's even more. How much money is he due? Two decades, right?
It was 18 years.
So he's
still that neighbor. I have a big problem with that neighbor.
It's not the neighbor's fault.
The freeloading neighbor, absolutely.
It's the utility company's fault. It's not the freeloader's fault.
There is some blame there.
Very little. Very little blame. Like, who volunteered? Oh, no, I'm not getting a bill. Maybe call the power company and get them to send me a bill.
I'm not saying you. I don't know. I just think I would probably talk to my neighbor. I'd say, "Hey, like, do you get a power bill? Do you? I haven't gotten anything. Like,
yeah,
you know, I've been living here for like 8 years. I haven't. Like, you would bring it up, right? A good person would bring it up because you're like curious about like how does it work here.
This is such a cool neighborhood. The real estate agent never told me the power was free, but what's keeping your lights on over there? Oh, it's this bag of uranium. That's actually how. I keep things running.
It's your broke neighbor over here that has. He's living by himself for 2 decades. He can't afford to put food on the table because he's paying your power bill.
Meanwhile, the freeloader has the best holiday lights on the block every year.
It's like the Griswolds.
Yeah.
All right. Very good, BK.
Good job,
that was
guys.
fun. You won, my friend. Touche.
Keeping score.
Good job. All right. Well, that was a fun show. We had covered a lot of bases. Much thanks to our guests, both Graham Hall from 24/7 Sports. Catch him over there. And then, of course, the great Shaun King. Man, that guy, he knows his gambling terminology much better than I do. That is for sure. All right. And much thanks to our studio crew. Mariah's here working the jib. We got Chris on the ones and twos. BK back in the booth. For Chris, I'm Scott. Until the next time we are on, there are no off days.
Episode 100 next week? Should we?
Hopefully. Keep our fingers crossed.
Will there be cake?
Ooh, there ought to be. There ought to be.